So, BookTube, it's Jimmy. Today we're going to do a very special video. We're going to do my very first book haul. So, everybody knows the only thing more enjoyable than reading a good book is shopping for them. So, that's what I told myself, at least, to justify the absolutely silly amount of books I bought in June. Bought this many on 2 separate shopping trips. One to a used store that I really like called Bramble Books. It's in Spring City, Pennsylvania, and it's cramped, a little chaotic, dusty. There's a resident cat. All that combined, I feel right at home. And then the second, NYRB Classics had their summer sale with discounts so deep, you would have been foolish. You would have been losing money if you didn't buy any books. So, in order to save money, I bought books. At least that's what I tell myself. That said, I'm gonna go through everything I bought at Bramble Books first. I started off in the fantasy and science fiction section. And I start off with She Walks in Darkness by Evangeline Walton. Evangeline Walton is a bit of a forgotten figure in American writing. She wrote a few fantasy books. I think she's most well known for the Mabinogion Quartet or Tetralogy. But it's a retelling of the Welsh national epic, the Mabinogion, which is from all the way from the Middle Ages, or the Dark Ages, I'm not sure which one. But it's in 4 novels, got 2 of them actually from the same store last year, and reading them was a highlight of my reading year last year. They're dark, with uncanny and strange magic, occasionally bloody violence, and the whole thing is like suffused with a beautiful melancholy. I had a great time reading it, and it made me want to read more from this writer. So I saw this, and I couldn't say no. This was published posthumously, and it's not exactly the kind of thing I sort of gravitate towards. Let me read the back. Beneath the beautiful estates of Tuscany lies another realm of catacombs, temples, and tombs filled with lost wonders of the ancient world. Treasures of ancient royal lines wait untouched, watched over by the unblinking eyes of pitiless Etruscan deities. Caught up in a Gothic saga of passion, madness, honor, and revenge, a resourceful young woman must rely on her wits, or be lost within the labyrinths of a brutal goddess. So that's She Walks in Darkness. The mention of Tuscany kind of makes me think about summer, so I'm probably going to put this near the top of my reading list. Next on my list is The Forever War by Joe Haldeman in this pretty cool little Del Rey paperback. I like these mass market science fiction books. This is a classic of military science fiction. It was recommended to me by a friend of mine, and I've seen this name pop up here and there on reading about books or on BookTube. So I decided to give this a shot. And as you can see, I'm about 3/5 of the way through it already. I just started reading a couple of days ago. And my initial thoughts are it's very compelling. This takes place in a future, 1997, where humanity is at war with a race, the Taurans, that live way off in a different star system. And our narrator is drafted into this war. And he's sort of in a catch-22 Starship Trooper situation where they're in a perpetual war that doesn't quite make sense to him. And it's quite good so far. There's a lot of chewy science fiction ideas in here. I'm enjoying it. Definitely, I'll probably talk more about this on my July wrap-up. So, next, I have Swords Against Wizardry by Fritz Leiber. Now, this is a sword and sorcery collection of short stories or novellas about 2 heroes, Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. They're extremely talented swordsmen who have sort of different personalities and temperaments, but they're best of friends. And I read the first collection of their stories called, do I have it with me? I do. Called Swords and Deviltry. I read this a few months ago, and I had a really, really fun time reading it. It's very pulpy. It's pulpy, almost cartoonish. Some of the writing is so lurid and vivid. I felt like I was reading a comic book. I had a really good time reading this. I'm looking forward to reading some more from these two heroes saga, and this is the fourth book in I guess there's in the series of stories. But from what I gather, you can sort of jump in and read anywhere with these short stories. So I'm looking forward to jumping into this one over a course of a couple evenings, I think. Now, the next book I picked up from the science fiction and fantasy section was this hardcover chunker, Three to Dorsai by Gordon Dickson. This particular series was put on my radar by the booktuber Steve Donahue in one of his science fiction primer videos. He sung the praises of at least some of the books in this series. I've heard some of them are also pretty bad. But this is a collection of 3 novels called Necromancer, Tactics of Mistake, and Dorsai with an exclamation point. And these take place in a universe where, a future where humanity has colonized other planets, and on those planets, they've broken off into different specialties. So you have a planet of people who have a merchant specialty, and then on the planet of the Dorsai, humanity has specialized into military training. And the people of the Dorsai act as mercenaries for the rest of humankind, and they take on jobs and assignments for people on those other planets. It's a pretty interesting vision of the future. And I actually read the first novel in this collection. Let me take that back. I read the third novel in this collection, Dorsai, because it was actually the first novel published in this whole series. Oddly, the author makes the choice of not presenting the novels in here in chronological publication order. And I read some reviews that people said if you don't read the Dorsai novel first, the other ones might be a little confusing and not land for you. So I went ahead and I read the last novel in this book, and I enjoyed it. It was pretty good. Not sure when I'm going to get to the rest of these, but I did like what I've read of it so far. And now we're going to do something completely different. This is the selected stories of Hsun. Now, Hsun is considered, I think, probably one of the greats of 20th century Chinese literature. He's most well known for a story that I read in college 15 years ago-ish called The True Story of Ah Q, which is sort of a satirical novella about, I don't remember its impression on me, but I kind of remember it being about sort of the backwardness of Chinese culture and society at the time. I've been on a little bit of a mini Chinese literature kick. So I'm looking forward to sort of jumping into this and sort of reevaluating what I read previously and reading some news stories from him that are new to me at least. It's a pretty cool volume and has woodcut prints in here as well, which I like. So this will probably be read sort of slowly over the course of several months is what I'm thinking for this one. And then lastly, something completely different yet again. This is A Sport and a Pastime by James Salter. This came on my radar completely accidentally. I was browsing a Reddit about books because I'm a damn nerd. And there was a thread about well-written erotic novels. And this name came up and it sounded really intriguing. I just really liked the title of the book. And I read a little bit about it, and it is apparently a pretty acclaimed book. So when I saw it on the shelves, I had to pick it up. The back of the novel is kind of funny. Oh, excuse me. The back of the cover is a little funny. I'll read it to you. As nearly perfect as any American fiction I know is how Reynolds Price, the New York Times Book Review, described this classic novel. Set in provincial France in the 1960s, A Sport and a Pastime is the intensely carnal story, part shocking reality, part feverish dream, of an affair between a footloose Yale dropout and a French shopgirl. Yet what is really at stake is not merely sex, but our need to tell stories about love, and to judge our own amorous successes and failures through the lens of other people's lives. Now, I don't know about you, but it sounds like a little bit of hogwash, but I'm looking forward to reading this, and because it's a steamy novel and based on the cover, this is really giving me summery vibes. So I gotta read this in the next month. I'll let you know how I feel about it. Now we're gonna move on to the books I picked up from NYRB. Now, if you're not familiar with NYRB Classics, they're a publishing line with the New York Review of Books, and they sort of specialize in English language books that have been kind of, I guess, overlooked a little bit, and then translations of non-English books. So we'll go through what I got from there. The first thing I picked up is Ghosts by Edith Wharton. Now, this is a collection. First of all, Edith Wharton's great. She's to me, she's one of those writers that has it all. She's the first woman to win the Pulitzer Prize for literature with her 1924 novel, The Age of Innocence. But she has a beautiful and clear prose style. She has really penetrating insight into society and to psychology. But she also, and this is the most important thing and what ties it all together, she knows how to tell you a story. Her books are complete ripping page turners. At least they're good ones, the ones I've read. I read The Custom of the Country earlier this year, and literally I could not put it down the last 250 pages. I think I read in a single Saturday afternoon. She knows how to really tell you a story, and she knows how to plot a novel. So she's got it all. But she's mostly known for her novels of manners, and this is a collection of ghost stories that she wrote. So that's something completely different. I'm looking forward to seeing how Edith Wharton approaches this genre, and seeing her in an environment that I've not experienced her writing in that genre. So looking forward to reading this. I'm probably going to save it for October. As corny as it sounds, it can be fun to have one or two spooky books on your reading table in October. So Ghosts, Edith Wharton. Now the next book is Lolly Willowes by Sylvia Townsend Warner. Sylvia Townsend Warner is a writer I've not read anything of, but I've seen her name just pop up here and there in discussions of writing in the 1920s. I think this is from... This was published in 1926. You do see her name pop up here and there in relation to other writers. And this sounded actually pretty interesting to me. I'll read the back of it. In Lolly Willowes, Sylvia Townsend Warner tells of a single woman's struggle to break away from her controlling family. A classic story which she treats with cool, subordinate intelligence, and to which she adds a visionary dimension of the strange. For Warner is one of the outstanding and indispensable mavericks of 20th century literature, a writer to set beside Juna Barnes and Jane Bowles, with a subversive genius that anticipates the fantastic flights of Angela Carter and Jeanette Wintersing. This is, from what I gather, is a feminist sort of tale with a bit of a witchy undercurrent. And as you can probably guess from, some of the things I have on my wall, I have a fondness for witchy things. So I'm looking forward to reading this. Also, this has a summer kind of feeling to me, so probably be reading this in August. The next book I picked up from NYRB was The Summer Book by the Finnish writer Tove Jansson. Or Jansson. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce her last name. But she's mostly well known for being the creator of Moomin, which is a comic featuring, I think, these little magical creatures that live in a magical forest. I haven't read it, so I don't know a whole lot about it. But I did read another book from her last year called Fair Play, and I really liked that. This is about a young girl who's living on an island with her grandmom and her father. And it's a series of vignettes mainly about the relationship between that young girl and her grandma. It's very beautiful. It's very touching. It's also extremely funny. And despite all that, it never really becomes overly sentimental, which I liked. I thought it was really good. It also has some really great illustrations in there. You can see that. Let's get another one. There's one I really like. Let's see if I can find it. Oh my goodness, this is taking forever. Here we go. So I really enjoyed this. I'll talk more about it in my July wrap-up, but this was great. And the next book I have, this is Peach Blossom Paradise by the Chinese writer Gurfei. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce his name. Like I said, I've been on a little bit of a mini Chinese literature kick, and I read another book from this writer a few months ago that I bought at a used store called The Invisibility Cloak. And this is also an NYRB. I had never heard of this writer or this book, and I saw this on the shelves. I read the first page, and I was instantly sucked in. So after I read this, I felt like I needed to read some more from this writer. Now this, I'll read the back. Actually, no, the back is, there's a lot there. I'm not going to read all that. But this takes place at the turn of the, I guess, in between the 19th and the 20th centuries, and which is a sort of time of revolutionary upheaval in China. And this is a book that I believe combines, some historical facts with a lot of fiction. So, looking forward to reading this. Not sure what to expect. Hopefully, it's as good as the last book I read from this writer. So, now last, this is another Chinese book. This is The Naked Earth by Eileen Chang. This is something I've never even heard of this writer, but the synopsis of this sounded interesting to me. I'll read it for you guys. Set in the early years of Mao's China, Naked Earth is the story of two earnest young people confronting the grim realities of revolutionary change. Lu Xian and Su Nan meet in the countryside after volunteering to assist in the new land reform program. Eager to build a more just society, they are puzzled and shocked by the brutality, barely disguised corruption, and ruthless careerism they discover, and then quickly silenced by the barrage of propaganda and public criticism that is directed at anyone who appears to doubt a righteous cause. Joined together by the secret of their common dismay, they remain in touch when Lu departs on a newspaper in Peking, when Su Nan eventually also moves. Something like love begins to grow between them, and then a new round of purges sweeps through the revolutionary ranks. One of the greatest and most loved of modern Chinese writers, Eileen Chang illuminates the dark corners of the human existence with a style of disorienting beauty. Naked Earth, unavailable in English for more than 50 years, is a harrowing tale of perverted ideals, damaged souls, deepest loneliness, and terror. So this, I believe, is about the Maoist revolution in China. I did read some reviews after I bought this that people thought it was a little propagandistic, but hey, I'm looking forward to reading this. Like I said, I've been on a bit of a China kick, so we'll see how this is, but I'm looking forward to reading it. Anyway, that is, do I want to gather all these books up? All 11 of them? Oh my goodness. That is too damn many books. So, but I'm making my way through them. If you made it to the end of this video, what the heck are you doing with your life? But thank you. Hopefully you got something out of this. Maybe you find some of these books interesting. If you read any of them, let me know. But I'll see you again probably in another week or so. So, thanks for watching.